So lads, the Angel Reese situation is not getting better. It is not getting better at all. And if you guys don't know, obviously Angel Reese was suspended for a half a game in what might have been the biggest joke in all of team sports, that Angel Reese got suspended for half a game. And like, it was at the stage where even other players were saying it's like, just suspend her for a game. At this stage, like, if you're gonna suspend her for the full game. Don't suspend her for half a game. And clearly, not only was she just suspended for half of the game, but yeah, she didn't play. As expected, she didn't play. Like, her fans on Twitter were like, "Oh, Angel, just say your back hurts in the warm-up. Just say your back hurts in the warm-up." And all of a sudden, like, she's been back for however long from the back injury.
So the Angel Reese saga has reached a whole new level of absurdity. And honestly, it feels less like sports coverage and more like a weekly episode of a drama series that refuses to end. We have injuries, suspensions, locker room politics, teammates side-eyeing each other, and an entire franchise trying to put out a fire with gasoline. If you thought last season was messy,
Ocho, Angel Reese got suspended for the first half of a game, saying her teammates suck. This guy made a statement saying, the Chicago Sky values the safety, respect, and well-being of every player. We are committed to accountability so our players can stay focused on playing basketball. Because of the statements detrimental to the team made by Angel Reese during the league-mandated media, she will not play in the first half of the game, September 7th, against the Las Vegas Aces. This matter has been handled and resolved internally, and we're moving forward as a team.
this season is giving reality television producers a run for their money. Let's start from the beginning, because this whole ordeal didn't come out of nowhere. Angel Reese, the self-proclaimed Bayou Barbie, who made a name for herself in college with swagger and confidence, is now finding herself at the center of headlines that have very little to do with basketball. Instead of game-winning performances or highlight reels, her story has been one of drama, conflict, and what looks like rebellion in plain sight.
Angel Reese doesn't touch the floor. Doesn't play in the first half, doesn't play in the second half. Oh, this is interesting. Did Tyler Marsh just say, you know what? Angel, I like the group that we have in right now. We don't need you. We're playing well. I don't know. Does Angel Reese throw a hissy fit in the locker room and says, no, I'm not playing? Kinda did that. Maybe not that exact, but she went about not playing. Yep, instead of coming to help her teammates, she would rather stick it to the Chicago Sky organization.
It began with what might go down as one of the strangest punishments in professional sports history. A suspension for half a game. Not a full game, not multiple games, but half. The Chicago Sky organization announced that Angel would be benched for the first 2 quarters due to detrimental statements she made about her own teammates. Now, if you've been following basketball for any amount of time, you know suspensions usually make sense. Player fights on the court, they get a game or 2. Player skips practice or violates rules, they get fined. But half a game.
It's getting hotter here, y'all. This is crazy. This is why this thing took a left turn out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. I have not, bro. This is supposed to be a professional league. Angel Reese, you telling me you refuse to go in the game for the Chicago Sky because they suspended you for 1 half? This is crazy, y'all. This is crazy. Wait till you get a load of this.
That's like grounding your kid until 8 p.m. and then letting them sneak out at 8:01. It was so bizarre that even other WNBA players chimed in, saying that if you're going to suspend her properly. The half measure looked weak, indecisive, and downright comical. And here's where it spirals into full-blown chaos. Fans expected Angel to re-enter the game in the second half, make a dramatic comeback, and maybe even remind everyone why she's one of the most polarizing stars in the league.
So the Chicago Sky situation is not ending, and I don't think it's going to end for a while. Like, this is some Dwight Mayer type stuff, but instead of Dwight Mayer saying it's you or me about the coach, Dwight Mayer said it's you or me about the literal entire team, except for the other player that was in her draft class that clearly doesn't fit playing beside her. It clearly does not fit playing.
Instead, Angel never checked in. 0 minutes. No warm-up, no attempt to contribute, nothing. At first, people thought maybe the coach, Tyler Marsh, just liked the group on the floor. Maybe he wanted to teach her a longer lesson. Maybe it was tactical. But as the dust settled, it became clear that Angel had staged her own protest. She claimed back pain, wore a brace in the most performative way possible, and sat out like a diva, refusing to step onto the stage unless her dressing room had the right brand of bottled water. Now let's pause on the back brace for a second, because it deserves its own segment. Angel could have worn it under her shirt like most athletes who are legitimately injured.
Angel Reese was suspended for the first half of today's game versus the Las Vegas Aces. She told them, I don't care if y'all suspend me, I ain't playing anyway. My back hurt. Oh, that's crazy. That is crazy. That's crazy work, Angel. That's crazy work, Angel. I cannot believe she just pulled the wool over their eyes like this. They thought that they was punishing her, and the whole time she knew, y'all can't punish me. I'ma say my back hurt. I'm not gonna play anyway. This season is over. This is crazy. We already saw her throw her teammates under the bus. Tyler Marsh was blindsided by.
Instead, she strapped it over her sweatshirt, making sure every single camera caught it. It was practically a billboard screaming, "Look at me, I'm hurt." Subtlety, never heard of it. Theatrics, front and center. This was less about support for her spine and more about support for her storyline. It was like showing up to school with a giant cast signed by nobody, just so people would ask what happened. The injury excuse felt paper thin, and the presentation of it made the whole act even harder to believe. The irony here is staggering.
She's suspended for a game because she picked up her 8th technical foul. So, and I think that's tonight. That was tonight, right? She was suspended tonight, and now she's suspended the first half against the Aces on the 7th to be Monday, correct? Yeah. Sunday. Yeah. Sunday. My bad. Sunday. Look. Angel expressed her dissatisfaction with the state of the franchise, is what she said. I like to be here for my career, but if things don't pan out, obviously I might have to move in a different direction and do what's best for me. But while I'm here, I'm going to try to stay open-minded about what I have here and maximize that as much.
Angel had just come off a 5-day break. Not 5 games, not a long road trip, literally 5 days off. You mean to tell us her back suddenly collapsed under the weight of rest and relaxation? That's like calling in sick to work on Monday because your weekend brunch was too exhausting. Fans saw through it instantly, and even her most loyal defenders online struggled to justify it. Some cracked jokes, others offered sarcastic applause, but very few actually defended the back injury narrative with a straight face.
Half game suspension. And I mean this when I say this. Why a half a game? Like Courtney Williams responded to it. Like she did the exact same. She's like, just suspend her for a game. Just suspend her for a game. Don't suspend her for half a game. Half a game makes no sense. She got to be on the warm-up bike for the first half in the locker room. Does she like come out at halftime? Is she suspended by just being sat on the bench? Like at this stage, suspend her for half a game. At this stage, just bench her for the season. Bench her for the rest of the season. Like there's 2 games left.
It was rebellion dressed as fragility, and everyone watching knew it. The Chicago Sky, meanwhile, are stuck in a situation that looks more like a toxic relationship than a professional partnership. On one hand, they suspended her, sending the message that they wouldn't tolerate her blasting teammates and undermining the locker room. On the other hand, they didn't follow through with conviction. They suspended her for half a game, then stood by quietly as she refused to play at all. It's like punishing a kid by telling them they can't play video games until dinner, only for the kid to smash the console and say, "Fine, I won't play ever." Suddenly, the punishment loses its meaning, and the parents are left looking foolish. Angel knows exactly what she's doing. By refusing to play, she shifted the story from Angel Reese punished for insubordination to Angel Reese rebels against weak organization. That's power. And as messy as it is, it works. The headlines stopped being about her poor shot selection or defensive lapses. Instead, they became about the rebellion itself, about the circus surrounding the team, about the spectacle she created. In a twisted way, Angel has turned her own controversies into leverage. If she plays badly, the story is about her flaws. If she refuses to play, the story is about her power. But here's the problem. Power plays like this don't come without consequences. Teammates notice when you abandon them mid-battle. Coaches notice when your attitude becomes bigger than the team. Fans notice when the drama overshadows the actual game. and reputations in sports stick. Quitting once can be brushed off as frustration. Quitting twice in back-to-back seasons becomes a label. That's how you go from being called a competitor to being called a quitter. And the scary part for Angel is that she's walking right into that trap. Let's talk about the teammates for a second. While Angel was parading around with her brace, her team was getting embarrassed on the court. They had 25 points with just a couple minutes left in the second quarter. 25 points. That's not just bad, that's historically atrocious for professional basketball. The Sky looked lifeless, overmatched, and desperate for someone to step up. Angel could have been that someone. Instead, she sat back, arms folded, watching her teammates drown while she floated on the lifeboat of her staged injury. That's not leadership, that's abandonment. And no brace in the world can protect you from the optics of that. Tyler Marsh, the head coach, deserves a medal for patience at this point.
Man, things are getting worse in Chicago, man. Way before it's getting better, I tell you. All right, so the game happened last night. And basically, if y'all remember, Angel Reese was suspended for half of that Aces game last night, right? So she sits out the half of the game, and then coming into the next half, she's ruled out injured with a back injury. Oh, man. Man, it's just tick for tat at this point, man. It is crazy what's going on in Chicago.
Imagine being a rookie head coach tasked with building a culture, establishing a system, and developing young players, only to have your supposed star player turn every game into a sideshow. Marsh had to answer questions pre-game about how they'd keep Angel warm during her half-game suspension. He talked about heating pads, stationary bikes, keeping her loose. He sounded like he was preparing to reintegrate her seamlessly into the second half. And then, plot twist, she never played. It made him look blindsided, unprepared, and ultimately powerless. That undermines his authority, and Angel knows it. She didn't just quit on the team, she embarrassed the coach in the process. The Sky as an organization look equally powerless.
What they suspended her for half a game? Why don't you just suspend the whole game at that point? Why do you want to suspend somebody half a game? How you even gonna play after getting suspended half a game? You gonna miss the first half and then you ain't gonna have no flow for the game. Am I tripping? You're not gonna have no flow for the game. If you miss the first half of the game and then all of a sudden you can get subbed in for the second half of the game, why not just suspend her the whole game?
That's just what the organization decided to do.
This is the same franchise that didn't defend her publicly when she criticized the front office. The same franchise that handed down a bizarre half-game suspension. The same franchise now sitting quietly while she hijacks their season with theatrics. It's like watching a marriage where both sides clearly want out, but neither wants to be the first to file for divorce. The Sky don't want Angel. Angel doesn't want the Sky. But for now they're stuck together, throwing petty shots and embarrassing each other in public. And the fans?
With Angel, she's sitting out the first half due to the suspension. Logistically, how does a player who normally starts the game kind of stay warm and go into the second half?
Starts with your warm-up, and then obviously after your warm-up, it's a pretty long stretch that you're sitting. So whether it's heating pads, whether it's being on the bike and staying active from that standpoint, I think different players operate differently. So we're trusting our medical staff to be able to.
That clip was Tyler Marsh before the game last night, where the Chicago Bravado continued their season-long tradition of getting their ass kicked. This time, the boot to the Bravado's bruised caboose, it belonged to the Las Vegas Anonymous Faces.
They're left watching a train wreck they can't look away from. Here's where it gets even crazier. Angel's decision to flaunt the brace, to make the rebellion as loud and visible as possible, has ironically increased her spotlight. The WNBA thrives on drama as much as it does on talent, and Angel has mastered the art of keeping her name trending. Even when she's not playing, she's the story. Even when her team is collapsing, she's the headline. That's leverage, and it might give her the upper hand in forcing her way out of Chicago. If the team feels like she's more trouble than she's worth, they'll look for a way to move on. And that's probably exactly what Angel wants. But let's not get it twisted. This isn't a masterclass in player empowerment. This is a mess. Angel may think she's winning, but she's leaving scorched earth behind her. Teammates will remember the abandonment. Coaches will remember the insubordination. Future franchises will remember the baggage. And fans will remember the theatrics. It's one thing to be polarizing because of your playstyle. It's another to be polarizing because you treat professional basketball like a Broadway audition. Right now, Angel is dangerously close to crossing that line. The half-game suspension was supposed to be the story. Instead, Angel turned it into an act of rebellion so loud, it drowned out everything else. From the performative back brace to the refusal to check in, she made sure the spotlight stayed on her. The sky looked weak, the coach looked powerless, the teammates looked abandoned, and Angel looked like the only one in control. It's chaos, pure and simple, and it shows no signs of ending. If anything, it's escalating. This isn't just about basketball anymore. This is Angel Reese versus the Chicago Sky, and the battleground is every game, every camera, every headline. And the crazy part? She might actually be enjoying it. Now, as we dive into the second half of this deep breakdown, the bigger picture of Caitlin Clark's journey and the Indiana Fever's transformation becomes even more fascinating. The first part laid the foundation of how Clark's arrival immediately altered the culture of the franchise and placed them under a national spotlight. But part 2 is where the true shift comes into focus. The Fever were not just bringing in Clark to score points. They were constructing an entirely new identity around her presence. And that required veterans, enforcers, and teammates willing to step into roles that protected her and maximized her talents. Think of it as a chessboard being rearranged. Clark is the queen, the most powerful piece, but the team needed rooks, bishops, and pawns to create the right structure. This second part examines Sophie Cunningham stepping fully into that enforcer role, Natasha Howard adding championship pedigree, Brianna Turner providing defensive grit, and Stephanie White molding everything together like an architect. The Indiana Fever had been soft for years, criticized for being a team without an edge, without toughness, and without identity. But the moment Clark arrived, they couldn't afford to be soft anymore. Every opponent was going to test her, every veteran was going to push her buttons, and every defender was going to be physical. Clark became a magnet for both the fans' love and the league's hostility. That's where Sophie Cunningham's story explodes. Cunningham has built her reputation in the WNBA as one of the league's true agitators. She talks, she barks, she gets under players' skin, and she doesn't back down when things escalate. That reputation is exactly what the Fever needed. Clark might be the face of the franchise, but Cunningham was going to be its backbone. And there's a reason Indiana targeted her in the offseason. They needed an enforcer who understood that protecting Clark wasn't optional, it was a mission. Sophie Cunningham has never been afraid of confrontation. From her days at Missouri to her rise in Phoenix, she was the player who dove on loose balls, who stared down opponents after big shots, who wasn't afraid to pick up a technical if it meant sending a message. That identity is now fully transplanted into Indiana, and Fever fans instantly embraced her because they knew Clark couldn't fight every battle alone. And here's where the chemistry becomes interesting. Clark is fiery, but she's not reckless. She picks her moments. Cunningham, on the other hand, thrives on confrontation. When the two combine, you get a balanced dynamic. Clark doesn't lose her focus while Sophie does the dirty work. It's almost reminiscent of NBA duos, where the superstar scores and dazzles, while the enforcer clears the path. Think Steph Curry with Draymond Green, or Larry Bird with Kevin McHale's toughness. Indiana's version might just be Clark with Cunningham. But it's not only about one enforcer. Natasha Howard's presence amplifies everything. Howard is a former Defensive Player of the Year, a multiple-time champion, and she brings an aura of respect. Players know her resume. They know she's not someone you can just push around. Having her in the paint alongside Brianna Turner means Clark can operate freely on the perimeter without constantly worrying about being blindsided. Howard doesn't just protect Clark physically. She legitimizes Indiana as a contender because she's been there. She's lifted trophies, and she knows the grind it takes to win. What's often overlooked in Clark's story is how much psychological warfare she faces. Every single night, defenders are not just trying to guard her, they're trying to break her. They tug her jersey, bump her off the ball, trash talk her nonstop, and hope to frustrate her into mistakes. Without a strong veteran core around her, Clark would be forced to absorb all of that alone. But with Cunningham and Howard taking the hits, Clark can focus on what she does best, torching defenses with her shooting and playmaking. This is where Stephanie White's coaching brilliance shines. White is not simply rolling the ball out and letting Clark shoot logo threes. She is constructing an offensive and defensive system designed to maximize Clark's gifts while making sure opponents can't exploit her weaknesses. For example, instead of forcing Clark to defend larger guards one-on-one, White schemes help defense rotations where Cunningham or Turner step into lanes, taking pressure off her. Offensively, White staggers lineups so that Clark always has either Howard screening or Cunningham spacing beside her, ensuring she is never isolated against double teams. It's chess, not checkers, and White is moving the pieces with purpose. Now let's zoom out to the cultural impact. When Clark was drafted, the Fever instantly became the most watched team in the WNBA.
That was head coach Tyler Marsh, who I have a lot of sympathy for, and I'm being dead serious when I say that. Tyler Marsh has one of the most difficult jobs in the country. As the head coach of the Chicago Bravado, he has got to deal with the constant drama of Angel Reese. And it's not just Angel Reese that he has to deal with. This poor dude, he also has to deal with her dozens of aliases. Me Bound Barbie, Bayou Barbie, Can't Afford My Apartment in Chi-Town Barbie, and her most recent personality, Blaming Barbie.
Granted, she wore the back brace during the shoot-around, right? So it kind of already looked like she was planning not to play in this game. And it kind of brings the question, like, since she sat out the game, like, or was ruled injured, did she serve the suspension? I don't know. It's kind of weird. You can tell it's just some turmoil going on in Chicago right now. And it kind of brings up the question, like, what is going to happen with Angel Reese at this point? I think she's done playing. I think she's done playing this season, honestly. And granted, you know, they asked Tyler Marsh, well, how do you feel about, you know, bringing Angel Reese back for the remainder of this season? He was stating like, yeah, she's coming back. Well, she wants to get out there. So we're going to, you know, play it with precaution.